Is this thing on? Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives a very warm welcome. After not doing a video yesterday, I feel reinvigorated to keep talking about Joker, Folie and Deux and the fallout. Because I think that's very, very important, boys and girls. Because the fallout is interesting to me. I never expected the fallout. I never expected this film to make a lot of money. I thought it would make more money than it's going to make. It's barely going to make 400 million, but I never saw a huge box office. I never saw a 700, 800 to $1 billion. But there's more to this film than just box office. For example, WB are now doing what they usually do to directors who fail. I don't think Todd Phillips has failed with this movie, but financially, it's a failure for the studio. I don't know anyone who would have I can't see how anyone who green lights Joker, Folie and Deux as a musical, like the way Todd was going to do it and say, oh, this is going to make $1 billion. This is a surefire hit. And maybe they felt it was going to be a surefire hit because they were going to ride the coattails of the first movie. But audiences today are very, very attuned. They know what they want and they know what they don't want. And as much as I love Joker, Folie and Deux, I can appreciate that this was the movie they didn't want. The audience didn't want this movie. And, the mainstream general audience have rejected Joker, Folie and Deux. It's as simple as that. But there's some things I want to cover about what's going on. So Variety have been putting out a lot of hit pieces. I mean, the Hollywood Reporter have been saying some stuff as well, but it's really been Variety. Now, Variety were one of the top haters of the first Joker movie. So this is an element of revenge on Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips doesn't give a shit. Todd Phillips has made his movie. He doesn't care. But it seems to me that Variety have always been connected to WB, and when there's hit pieces to be made, when WB want to step away from a director, so, they get their friends Variety to do hit pieces about said director. So some things have come out. For example, Todd Phillips refused to work with, consult with James Gunn, Peter Safran, and DC Studios. He's been very vocal about that. He would only consult with Pam Adby and Mike DeLuca of Warner Brothers Pictures. I agree with Todd Phillips here, and let me tell you why. If James Gunn was the director and Todd Phillips was the CEO of DC Studios, would James Gunn accept notes from Todd Phillips? No, because in fact in the past, James has bragged about tearing up studio notes. So James Gunn can't be upset about this. Now, James Gunn was asked about this. He goes, I tried to give notes, but they wouldn't take them. So they're all trying to assert their positions. This is nothing to do with me, governor. This was all on Todd Phillips. And Todd is happy to take responsibility for this movie because Todd is very proud of this movie. So there's a big fallout. They keep on repeating how it's a flop, especially in North America. They want you to know what a failure this film is financially. Now they talk about Beetlejuice, the second Beetlejuice, right? Beetlejuice, whatever, right? Saying that WB did right with that film. Now I haven't seen that film. Maybe you can get down in the comments below and tell me how you feel about that film. But they're saying they got WB did right because it was a success financially. So if a film is a flop, does that make it a bad film? Does that mean it shouldn't exist? Absolutely not. Don't forget, The Wizard of Oz was a flop. Should that film not exist? That film is still one of the most, not successful, but one of the most expensive productions of all time. Expensive. So if you translate the money back from 1938 to 2024, I think you may even be talking about 500 million modern dollars, right? It's that absurd because it was a passion project, because all that generation when they were kids were reading Baum's Wizard of Oz books. So it was like Harry Potter. Everyone wanted to be involved with that film. And that film is famous and beloved, but financially, cinematically, it never made any money. So that's the question I'm asking you. If a film's a flop, does it make it bad? No. Does it mean it shouldn't exist? No. But everything today has become about box office, Rotten Tomatoes and, critics, whether, it's panned by critics or loved by critics. I don't care about those conversations. I don't have shares in WB. I don't care what critics think. I don't care about audience scores. I care about my own perception of a movie. I can love Joker Folendwa, but I can have the other conversations on whether or not this movie should exist. People are angry about this movie because it's not a traditional CBM. But the truth is, the first film wasn't a traditional CBM. Phillips was saying within the first film, he's not Joker, he's Arthur Fleck. I believe that both movies are very consistent with that and of each other. And it's actually a very good continuation. As I said before, you can watch these films as one film and then one story. Everything that happens to me makes perfect sense. Arthur Fleck is the accidental Joker. There's this skier. He wasn't very good at skiing back in the 80s. His name was Eddie the Eagle Edwards. All of a sudden, he became famous for just having a go, for just trying to do something that he wasn't very good at. This is the same with Arthur Fleck. Don't forget, Arthur is wearing clown makeup from the beginning because that's his job, not because he's the Joker. Then, when he's caught, when people see what's going on, that he's killing people, and when he's on that train in the first film, he's not going onto that train to kill people. He snaps. And he's trying to protect that woman as well. So he's an accidental killer, if you like. He's an accidental figure. He's an accidental celebrity. He never asked to become the Joker. But like with every one-off celebrity, if you're watching this and you've ever become famous for the first time, isn't it true when you first become famous, you love it? You love the attention. It's going to your head. You think, wow, I'm so amazing. As you remain famous and you notice that you're owned by sponsors and studios and TV networks and streamers, and they're telling you what to say and do, and they're just throwing scripts at you, and you're locked in an apartment and you're recognized everywhere, you begin to resent being famous. I have a lot of friends who have been in this boat. This is Arthur Fleck. He is the unwitting celebrity, and at first, when he puts that Joker makeup on and he's dancing on the stairs, he's loving his celebrity status. But as he goes on and on with it, in this second movie, he's regretting the fame. He's regretting what he's become. This is what I'm saying. Both movies are telling one story. So when they say they're repeating the same beats of the same movie, they're not. He's still a mentally ill fantasist. They're not repeating beats. It's a natural beat from one story to the other. So this is all false propaganda because people didn't get what they want. And critics, by the way, critics didn't universally love the first film either, by the way. It was very mixed. And actually, I don't think the Rotten Tomatoes scores was anywhere near 90 or 100%. If I remember rightly, it got a huge standing ovation at the Venice Film Festival and stuff like that. It made a lot of money. But Access Media and critics didn't necessarily love Joker. And as I said earlier, who gives a fuck what they like and don't like? It's about your personal opinion. You don't have shares in WB, so you can enjoy this movie. Now, as an industry, as a business, should they have made the decision to make this movie? Let's discuss the studio element and artistic integrity. And, because this is an interesting kind of thing. What you do. Well, as I said during the fight to release the Snyder Cut, I made this point that at the end of the day, the studio is investing. It's money. So the studio has some kind of right to do what they want to do, right? In a way, they've got to be in on the conversation. And if you don't allow them to be in on the conversation, how can they be? It's their money. They're investing. Now, the outrageous, outlandish claims that this film cost 300 million with marketing, I can't accept. I simply can't accept that. Because how did this film cost 300 million? There's only one way. Lady Gaga's wages. I can't say, right, 300 million. People say people say the figure 300 million like it's nothing. Do you realise how much $300 million is? It's a lot of fucking money. It would take a lot for you to spend 300 million on a film if you're not using CGI. Now, there's some location shooting in this film, but mostly this film is obviously shot on a soundstage. They haven't gone to Mars to shoot this fucking movie, right? I don't see how this film can cost 200 million to make or 300 million to make. I don't believe those claims. So originally they were telling us it was around 120, maybe 140 at most. Then for some reason, the legend of it being 200 million, so I don't believe that. They're lying to suit the narrative. There's a huge pile-on, but it's interesting, as I keep on commenting on the Variety articles, that where's their energy for the Marvels? When the Marvels flopped, where was this repeated parroted autopsy? It's a failure, it's a failure, it's a failure. They didn't want you to know it's a failure. So when it doesn't suit their narrative, they won't go on about a flop. But when they're after something, and I think, as I say, WB certainly are putting out some hit pieces and trying to distance themselves from Todd Phillips and this film. So, there has to be a balance between what the studio wants and, what the director wants, right? Ultimately, you are in an industry, and I've spoken about this before. You do need to make money. But in this instance, it seems to me that WB and Todd Phillips put out a film, for Todd Phillips, not for the audience, right? There's people who appreciate it. I appreciate it. I think the moment I love the most in this film is when Arthur or Joker is cross-examining Gary. And he's going after Gary. And Gary tells him, do you know what it's like to be bullied? Now, Gary knows that Arthur knows what it's like to be bullied. And Gary's crying on the stand. It's at that moment where he becomes Arthur again. Even though he's in the Joker makeup, he becomes Arthur again. He realises that Gary's a good person. He doesn't deserve this. He's bullying him. He's becoming the very thing he fought against. This was the reason he became Joker, to stop the bullying. It's why he killed Murray live on TV, because Murray was a bully. He was bullying him live on TV. He was mocking Arthur on his stand-up, wasn't he? So, Arthur becoming Joker is becoming the very thing that he hates. The thing he was fighting against, right? And that's a very interesting concept. But, unfortunately, many people who were thinking about the Joker sequel didn't want that. They wanted a Harley and Joker rampaging through Gotham, or Joker versus a young Bruce Wayne, a teenage Bruce Wayne. I mean, look, there's lots of things you could have done with Bruce Wayne. You could have had a bigger, time jump, and Bruce Wayne could have been a teenager, and they could have crossed paths. Interesting. You could have had Bruce Wayne and Arthur Fleck Joker meeting in Arkham. Life hasn't been good to a teenage Bruce Wayne. He's in Arkham. They escape, and they become partners. But then there's a fallout, and Bruce decides, this is the wrong way to go, and he leaves Arthur behind, and they become enemies. That would have been interesting as well. But here's the thing: these things just didn't interest Todd Phillips. That's not what he was telling. He used the DC character Joker to tell his own story. And to be fair to Todd, he was always very consistent about this. The only reason I'm using the name Joker because comic book characters are the only way to get butts on seats. He said that. He never tried to pull the wool over your eyes. Todd Phillips was very blatant and honest. The only reason I'm calling it Joker is to attract your attention on the story I want to tell. I want to tell a story about a mentally ill fantasist in the 70s, 80s, whatever, right? I want to show you how people don't take mental health problems seriously, how society turns their back on the mentally ill. That is the story and social commentary Todd Phillips was telling you within 2 movies. So I don't get the upset. I don't get the shock and the surprise that this isn't a traditional comic book movie. The man never told you he was giving you a traditional comic book movie. The first film wasn't a traditional comic book movie, but you wanted what you got in the first movie. And that's weird. That's just weird to me, right? The fallout of this movie mainly is because people are pissed off that it was a musical. That's the truth of the matter. And then all of a sudden, this discussion that it's a middle finger to the fans of the first film. I disagree. I don't agree that this is a middle finger. I think it's consistent. I think the storytelling is very, very consistent. But then you ask the question, is this a film that should exist? Did the public need this film? No, Todd Phillips did. Now, there's discussions saying that Todd Phillips was forced to make this sequel. That's interesting because it made $1 billion and WB thought, make a sequel. They give us another one of them. So there's a school of thought that Todd Phillips went, fuck you, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do what I want. That Todd Phillips literally made a film that was going to fail financially on purpose. I don't know. I've told you that Todd Phillips isn't a comic book fan, that he's a DC guy. He admitted that. But I mean, within his 2 movies, there are comic book beats within it. He does use certain things. He does try and put some kind of little Easter eggs. Bless him. He has tried to put little DC Easter eggs within both movies. So then, you ask, what was the point of this movie? Well, I don't know. I could have lived with just the first movie. We all could have done, let's be honest. But I did enjoy the sequel. The reality is it's not your problem. The film exists. You can say the film shouldn't exist, but it does. Keep on fucking crying. Keep on crying. The film does exist. Whether you like it or not, this film exists. I think it should exist, right? Films flop. It flopped. Whatever it cost, whatever it didn't cost. And I don't think this is just another failed DC movie. And I certainly don't think this is a degraded movie. I don't know what orifice people pulled that degrading out of. I mean, it's a disgusting grading, right? I'd give Deadpool and Wolverine a D-grade over Joker and Wolverine. Get fucking triggered as much as you want. Because that movie is shit. That movie made over $1 billion, made some people happy because of some cameo and nostalgia bait, but that film is shit. Even the reviews weren't that great. If you remember rightly, they were mixed. That was interesting. But it made a lot of money, so everyone goes, like all the analysts, like the box office analysts for Beetlejuice, WB did right because it made money. And this is the attitude today. As long as it makes money, it's a great movie. And if it doesn't make money, if it's not critically accepted, it's a bad movie. This is what they said about Man of Steel, BVS, blah, blah, blah. No. Ultimately, a film is successful individually in our minds. We deem whether a film is good or not. So Joker Folie en Deux is there for the ages. It's there to be enjoyed or hated. If you hate something, move on from it. The parroting. They're trying to put this, like Variety especially, are trying to create an agenda that this film was a disaster. Todd Phillips wouldn't listen. He wouldn't work with James Gunn. And I agree with him not working with James Gunn. I did tell you this. I did tell you that there was no love lost between Todd Phillips and James Gunn. I told you that he didn't want to be involved with James Gunn or DC Studios. And you can look back on my videos. To prove that I know what I'm fucking talking about. Nobody listens to me. Nobody watches me. That's fine. My ego enjoys putting out videos, so that's okay. But instead of watching, videos that try and trigger you, and have an interesting title that sucks you in, maybe consume people who know what they're talking about. So, if I'm the CEO of Warner Brothers and Todd Phillips wants to if I want Todd Phillips to make another $1 billion Joker movie and he says, I'm making a musical, I'm doing this, I'm going to say, Todd, mate, do you know what? Let's just forget it. Let's just forget it. Because I'm going to lose money. So Todd, this is your decision. This is the movie you want to make. Now I'm glad Joker Folie à Deux exists for me, the consumer, but if I'm the CEO of Warner Brothers, even if I've never made a film in my fucking life, I know that making a musical CBM and the way he wanted to make it wasn't going to work. Financially, it wouldn't give me, as a CEO, the profitability that I need to take to my shareholders. Because David Zaslav is under a lot of pressure from his shareholders. Let's not forget, he's got to answer to people as well. So if I'm insisting on Todd Phillips making a sequel and this is what he gives me, so I say, do you know what, Todd? Let's just forget it. You know, what movie do you want to make outside the Joker universe? Do you want to make a musical? If you want to make a musical, fine, but it's going to have to be cheap. But we're not making a Joker sequel because clearly you don't want to make a Joker sequel, and you don't want to, you don't want to give people what they want to watch. And at the end of the day, as great as your idea is, mate, I need to make money. I'm a studio CEO. We're on our knees financially. We need to make money. So I can love Joker Folie à Deux. I can be happy personally that it exists. But as a studio CEO, it's pretty obvious to me that this movie isn't going to make money. It's going to be reviled. It's going to be hated. There's no point in putting it out there because you're not making movies for yourself. You're making movies for public consumption. So you can make a movie that you have a vision of. You can do that. But in the end, you've got to feel in your heart that it's an idea you can take to the studio that's going to be good for you artistically, but also is going to bring them the money they crave, right? So, as you know, some of you know, I'm writing a movie script called Saving Judy Garland. It's a time-traveling adventure where my character is whisked away in a tornado, arrives in 1938, and he finds himself as an LAPD policeman patrolling the Wizard of Oz set. So he's whisked back during the production of The Wizard of Oz. I believe, and he interacts with Judy Garland, who he's a big fan of. He's done nothing with his life. He's just obsessed over movies, a little bit like me, obsessed over movies, and obsessed over Judy Garland all his life. So all of a sudden, he's come back in time. He knows the stories of Judy. He knows how she was, hooked onto uppers by the industry. He knows all of this, and he's always wished that he could have saved her. And now he's here. He's interacting with Judy. It's a time-traveling adventure. I believe with the 1930s Hollywood nostalgia, the fact that everyone knows what The Wizard of Oz is, you can tell an emotional time-traveling adventure where someone comes back in time and kind of, interacts with their hero. And I think that's an interesting thing. So that's my idea. I'm just giving you an example. I think this idea can make money. I think it's a great idea artistically because of, the nostalgia of 1930s Hollywood and all of that. But you can tell it's kind of Back to the Future and Life on Mars. And I think there's money to be made from that. And that's the thing. So when I write this script and I'm pitching it, I'm telling the studios, I'm going to tell the studios, I'm passionate about this story and I think it can be a beautiful artistic movie, but I think it can also make you money. Comment down below if you think my Saving Judy Garland idea can make money. And there's elements in this film where he's being chased by the tornado to take him back home and he's saying, I'm not ready. You can't take me home now. I haven't saved her yet. So there's an emotional element of him being chased by fate and time. And the more he helps her, the more he's damaging the world. He's changing the space-time continuum. What does he do? Save Judy Garland or let the world, or save the world? Because the world is being ruined. He's damaging the Earth's core by saving her because he keeps on changing everything. That's my story. I believe people would go to cinemas to watch it. But let's go back to Todd Phillips' Joker Folie à Deux. There has to be a balance. First of all, I think the industry needs to change. There needs to be a department where there's people who understand movies and stories, where they decide, they work with the directors when they pitch something. People who understand. I don't believe you should be pitching stuff to CEOs, right, and executives. I think you should be pitching stuff. There should be a department where you're pitching to people who understand movies. And they're the ones who should be green-lighting stuff. Now, I believe that Pam Adby and Mike DeLuca understand movies. They're very, very successful people. But even they, and I don't know if they green-lit Joker Folie à Deux, But whoever did made a mistake. If you were putting this film out there to make another $1 billion, because surely they wanted to make money from it. Otherwise, it was just an artistic thing. But they want to make money, right? So it's an artistic movie. I'm glad it exists. But as a CEO, I'm not letting Todd Phillips make this movie, right? It's my money. It's my studio. You're not making this movie, son. Well, I won't make a movie then. Fuck off then. That's it. That's it. I love Joker Following Dwight. I love Todd Phillips. I get what the story he's telling across two films. A Joker in name only. He's not really the DC Joker. This is about Arthur Fleck. Todd Phillips says this is about Arthur Fleck, not the Joker. He's right. If you watch the movie, both movies consistently, he's fucking right. You know, there's lots of people coming onto Twitter saying, why are you making a film that's nothing? Why are you calling a film Joker that's nothing to do with Joker? Because the world, he becomes the accidental celebrity, and they give him this name Joker, right? So when he goes on the Murray Franklin show, he says, "Can you call me Joker?" He's adopting the fame game. Because at first, as I gave you that example, when you first become famous, inject it in my veins. I'm loving this. Everybody fucking loves me. But after a while, being popular and famous becomes fucking tiring. And this is what happens to Arthur. And that's why when he's cross-examining Gary, he realizes he doesn't want to be Joker. And actually, it makes sense. I don't see that as a middle finger to the fans. I don't see this as a middle finger to the studio. It makes fucking sense. This was never supposed to be a traditional CBM. The first fucking film wasn't a traditional CBM. So to close off this in the next 4 or 5 minutes, let's just look at it in a certain way. So all the articles you're reading are nothing. They keep on telling you that the film's made 37, 38 million in North America. It's a flop. I can't deny it. It's a flop. It was probably always going to be a flop because of it being a musical and the story that it's telling. But it's only continuing the story via the guise of a musical in what it started in the first movie. It's not inconsistent with what was done in the first movie. You know, I'm hearing Nerdrodic and people like that saying, well, it betrays the first movie. It ruins the first movie. No, it doesn't. It's a faithful continuation from the first movie. Take your comic... Look, comic book geeks shouldn't even really have an opinion about this, right? They don't really have any right to be upset about this. This was, yes, they want your consumption, right? They were trying to lure you in. And Todd Phillips was honest about that. I'm calling it Joker so you can come and watch it, right? DC fans can come and watch it. But ultimately, I want to tell a story about a mentally ill fantasist called Arthur Fleck. That's it. I'm calling him Joker. I'm using the Joker situation to lure people in to watch it, right? So, and then you've got, but I want to finish off by something else, right? If we're talking about what would have been better for the studio, I think Todd Phillips would have been better served, considering he introduced Harley, in forgetting Joaquin Phoenix Joker, leaving him alone. You told his story, right? It's gone. It's done, right? Forget it. Because this is what Todd Phillips claimed that he wanted to do a Black Label franchise. That when he first suggested Joker, it was the first DC Black Label villain story he was going to tell. He wanted to tell different stories, right? Via the guise of DC villains and DC characters. So it would have made more sense just to make a Harley Quinn movie. I've said this before. He could have brought in Lady Gaga or anyone else, but the problem is Lady Gaga's expensive. I suppose if this film did cost 300 million, it's because of Lady Gaga's wages, as I keep on saying. That's the only thing I can see that's cost them so much money. So it didn't have to be Lady Gaga. People say Taylor Swift is the most famous singer celebrity in the world. No. Lady Gaga is much bigger than her. Much bigger. She's more iconic than her as well. But anyway, and you know, Taylor Swift tried to do directing and acting. She's crap. She's only there because of her name. But anyway, so I think rather than continuing Arthur's story, you can have Harley's story. So the background of Joker, she's in the Joker universe. She's in the Black Label universe. Joker existed. What Joker did happened from the first movie. But Joker is now in Arkham, right? He's in Arkham. You don't see him. This is a Harley Quinn story, right? and just tell a proper Harley Quinn story. If you do that without it being a musical, right? Or maybe if it was a musical with just her in it, I don't know. People don't want to watch CBM musicals, right? Look, we're not in the 1930s. I mean, musicals are the foundations of what Hollywood started out doing. But we're not there anymore. People don't want this, right? Yeah, you'll make the odd musical and it'll be successful, but ultimately, Todd Phillips isn't a musical director. People don't want to see a fucking musical CBM, right? We knew that. The studio, Adby and DeLuca and Zaslav should have fucking knew it. You knew it, and I knew it, right? But I can still appreciate the movie and enjoy the movie and love it. I don't have to pile onto a movie just because it failed, which is what a lot of Access Media is doing, what a lot of you are doing. As soon as a movie fails, you have a certain opinion on it. And that's the problem these days. And, you know, that's my assessment of Joker Folie à Deux. Great movie, consistent with the first movie, done in the guise of a musical, but Arthur's story is consistent. This was always about Arthur Fleck and not the DC character, the Joker. It all makes sense, and the meltdown is a mystery. You don't have to like the fact that it's a fucking musical. You don't have to like that. But just move on. The Pylon. This is not a bad movie. This is not Justice League. This is not Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. This is not a film whose budget was reduced. This is just a man making a visionary film. It is a visionary artistic musical, and it's cultured. It's not bad. To give this film a D-grade score, to give it a low audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and other metrics says more about you than Todd Phillips.